The Citizen had an exclusive interview with the UK Minister for Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean, Vicky Ford, in a wide-ranging topic on education, climate change and boosting UK investments. So Minister Vicky Ford, welcome to Tanzania, and this is Mwananchi Communications Limited. Today's discussion will center basically on the UK's support to Africa, specifically to Tanzania in terms of education, but also climate change and any other area that the UK and Tanzania have developmental relations. So to start off, I just want to understand your priorities for Africa under your role.
So that's a brilliant question. It's fantastic to be here in Tanzania. We take a view with African countries that our relationships should be based on partnerships with different countries, and partnerships based on 5 different top priorities. First of all, partnerships based on countries that love freedom and democracy. Tanzania is very much a freedom, democratic country, and we believe that when people are free to choose their own leaders, that means that countries are more peaceful, they're more prosperous. The second bit of the partnership is based on trade and investment, again by working to unlock opportunities for UK investment and for UK trade. I've met a number of companies already who are investing in Tanzania, want to do more, have been very encouraged by the government recently about the new stability in the country, and so more trade and investment. A third opportunity and also risk is the issues to do with security and defence, obviously incredibly concerning across the world at the moment, but also on the continent of Africa. So we work with a number of partners on security and defence issues. And then there is, of course, the delivery of the promises that were made in Glasgow at the COP26 conference, which we chaired, to tackle climate change. So a big priority is to work with our partner countries in Africa to help tackle climate change, mitigate against the risks, but also deliver cleaner, greener energy in the future. And the fifth one, which is absolutely at the heart of everything, is empowering women and girls. Countries will never deliver on their full potential if you don't unlock the potential of 100% of the population, and that includes women and girls. And that is why we're such a leader across the world in our funding of girls' education and the projects and support that we put in to try and make sure that that girls' education is also quality education and education that takes them through the full 12 years of school life.
Perfect. So let's talk a bit about your visit here to Tanzania, which was in part to launch the innovative education program. Now, when it comes to Tanzania's education, what first and foremost informed your decision to launch this initiative, which will help primary education? So can we talk a bit about that?
So the project is Shule Bora, so it's quality education. Okay, we've been partnering with Tanzania for many, many decades on various different education projects, and this is really also going to try and help the government, because it is government-led and regional-led, to really work on how you can make sure that that education offer for children is inclusive, so that all children can get in, not only girls as well as boys, but also those who live in more hard to reach areas, and children with disabilities can get to education. And then working to try and make sure that the education is of as high a quality as possible. So part of this will, for example, be backing the teachers with better teacher training. It'll be looking at analysing what's working well in different parts of the country and how you spread that to other parts. It'll be providing better teaching materials as well. And as I said, the real focus on inclusivity. How can you make sure that children with disabilities can also access?
Perfect. So now, considering the fact that education is an evolving sector where one starts from primary up to higher education. And now in Tanzania, there is this rise of awareness of the contribution of vocational education training, whereby youth are able to get the practical skills. But then it's still a very much untapped area. Now, as you provide assistance, for primary education, innovation, trying to bridge that gap to access to education, what do you think should be done in terms of enabling a youth gain those practical skills that will make them be able to self-employ, but also gain employment elsewhere?
So I think it's a really interesting point, okay? But first of all, even if you want to work in practical skills roles, it's still really important to get the basics of mathematics and the basics of language and reading to help you to unlock whatever skilled job you might want to do. I mean, if you wanted to become a tradesperson in your own right, being able to do the numbers and the accounts and read about the different work you're doing is still really important. So making sure that children have got those basics of good reading, good basic math skills, really important. One of the things that the experts here have been telling me about is sometimes the transition from primary to secondary will mean that pupils will drop out at secondary if they sometimes if they haven't had that core basics of access to language, access to maths, it makes it difficult for them to carry on. And actually, the education minister, when I met him today, we had a brief chat about, what do you do with the vocational skills and the technical skills as well. And I'm hoping that he will be coming to England soon for the Global Education Summit, because one of the things we've been working at in the UK as well is how do we make sure that young people who want more technical skills don't necessarily want to go to university to do more academic qualifications, but that they can still get the skills that they need. And he was very interested in learning more about what we've been doing in terms of building up those technical skills qualifications as well, and seeing whether some of that could also help. And that's why it's important, the project that we've announced today is actually a 6-year project, okay, that we can look and see what's learning, see what's working. But actually it is really important that all kids get that basic core skills that will be useful to them in whatever job they have.
Okay, perfect. So I'm sure the government in Tanzania as a country, we do appreciate this massive development funds that is being extended towards the education sector. But when we scrutinize national exams results year in, year out, especially in public schools, it's quite apparent that the sector is still quite facing a lot of challenges. Poor performance across, especially in science subjects, but then again, we still have all these millions and billions in Tanzanian shillings that have been poured into the education sector. So how come we are not seeing the tangible results in spite of all this development? And actually some people have voiced their concern that should maybe the development partners reconsider some of these development funds that they're extending towards education, because we're not seeing any tangible results.
So first of all, I'm absolutely delighted that President Samia in her first year has really got to grips with this and said she wants to have education opportunities for all young people, but also that it needs to be that quality education. And that's exactly what this project's about. So, look at the results that some young people are getting at the end of their schooling, and they're just not high enough. So therefore, let's go back and look at the data. Part of this will be looking at the data with the Ministry for Education, what is working, what's not working, and making sure that we can get the best practice into different schools across the country. As I said, more of this will be also training teachers, supporting teachers, so that the children can get that better quality education. And it's very clear, money is going into that education system, but it needs to be able to work better to deliver those qualifications and basic skills for young people. And that's what this project, Shulabora, is all about.
Okay, so you mentioned a bit about science and grooming that interest in having more students take up science subjects. But when we look at the number of people who have the interest in science, and the government keeps on encouraging STEM, science, technical education, engineering and mathematics, most of them, yes, they do have an interest, but after that, what do they do with the STEM subjects? We don't really see that. It just stops on the academic scale. So what is your advice maybe on how to scale the STEM subjects beyond academics so that they can actually use them beyond that?
Well, actually, yesterday when I went to the Serengeti Brewery, I met some fantastic women scientists who were doing all the work at the brewery on quality control. It's real, the engineers, women engineers working there as well. I think the key thing here is also bringing more investment into the country to create those new jobs as well. So one of the things that I found very, very uplifting since I've been in Tanzania is hearing to businesses saying they want to put more money into this country. They see it as a place opportunity for them to invest and for new jobs to be created. And indeed, later on this evening, I'm going to be meeting with a number of British companies who are interested in making further investments into this country.
Okay, so in terms of access to education, the Ministry of Education has been pushing for a digital drive. We have seen that. It actually gained more impetus during the onset of COVID-19 in 2020. But then there was a realization that there is a massive gap in terms of access to education when now we move to the technology and the digital world. So what is being done to address that? And I'm quite sure it is something that you have quite noticed, that, not only to the disabled children, but then also those in, the rural settings. Yeah. So as the Ministry of Education moves towards, the technological path, what is being done to bridge that access to education on the digital scale?
Well, so we've seen that across the world. We've seen that in the UK, where those children who had access to digital technologies at the beginnings of school lockdown, they were able to keep learning and others weren't. And we were very lucky in the UK that the government was able to purchase many hundreds of thousands of computers and laptops for children who didn't have technology, and that has not been possible across the world. But one of the things that the Shula Bora will be looking at is how do you get education to children who are in more difficult, hard to reach areas. And that's precisely why we're putting this investment in this 6-year programme to work with the governments, with the regional governors as well, to say how do you spread that across the country.
So, how optimistic...
I don't have the answers, but yes, that's why we're doing the project.
I understand. So how optimistic are you that Tanzania will be able to have a turnaround in terms of addressing some of the basic challenges facing the education sector?
So I think that it's more than just the education sector. It's how optimistic am I that Tanzania has that opportunity for growth that can then be invested in their future. And I'm extremely optimistic, okay? As I said, I'm seeing big companies that say, we now think the country is stable, we want to invest here, we want to create jobs here, we want to create jobs for local people here as well, not bring in our own staff from other places. Yeah. We want to employ people locally. So that's what I'm hearing from many UK companies. And they're seeing a government that's absolutely focused on how do we unlock that investment, because that will bring the taxes in the future in order to pay for that. I also was incredibly impressed by a project that I saw yesterday with an environmental organisation, Carbon Tanzania, which is looking at the trillions of private sector investment there is across the world wanting to go into carbon capture projects, okay, and particularly on caring for forests. And what they were doing was working with local communities and say, if you come up with a land use plan that protects your forest, and we can monitor that through satellite imaging, then you can receive funding from this global money. And that can go into your community. You can invest it in better schools, in better healthcare, in opportunities to start up your own local small and medium-sized businesses. If your care, your stewardship of your local environment is something that you can actually bring in funds off the back from as a community. And I think Tanzania, if they grasp this opportunity across the country, that could be life-changing for the entire planet, and somewhere that Tanzania could be a real global leader as well. And the benefits of that into education, into health, into public services, into small and medium-sized businesses, it's very, very significant.
Perfect. So you'll be meeting with UK companies here in Tanzania, and I believe some of the private sector players. What will be the key message in terms of enhancing, the business relations, not only with the government, but also, private companies in Tanzania, between now the UK working with private companies in Tanzania?
It's a good question. So what I'm hearing from a lot of private companies is that now they see more stability from the government, and the government is listening to the voice of employers and wanting employers to be able to create more jobs. Then that makes that a very much more attractive opportunity for them to invest in. We've also got two significant government bodies that can help make that investment happen. The first is the organisation British International Investment, which is our own investment development arm, which we've empowered with new tools to be able to invest, particularly in infrastructure projects, bringing in honest, reliable UK partners to invest in helping projects that will help countries grow. But I've also seen them investing in smaller initiatives to help, for example, female entrepreneurs in different countries. So BII, British International Investment, can help unlock funding. And then we have another significant opportunity through UK Export Finance, which can come in and give export credit guarantees to British businesses to help them unlock projects. And the interesting thing about UK export financing is that the money it brings in, only 20% of the project is from UK resources, businesses. The other 80% can come from local partners. Okay. So when UK Export Finance supports an initiative here in Tanzania, it can be supporting local jobs, local businesses, as well as the British investment. So it's a true partnership approach.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about climate change. That's a big agenda under President Samia Suluhu Hassan. We saw that, in Glasgow. How is the UK helping Tanzania's efforts in tackling the adverse impacts of climate change?
So it is a really significant issue, climate change, across the whole of the continent. Yes, and of course I've been talking, for example, here and listening to people here about the importance of water capture in different areas as well. So, and after this trip I'm going down to Malawi, which has suffered so terribly from recent cyclones. It's really impacted on the continent of Africa. One of the really big things that I think that Tanzania could benefit from, as I said, is being able to unlock this huge private sector funding that is there from companies who want to do the carbon offsetting and support those who can protect forests, regrow trees, etc. And if that can be done in a way that also enables those communities to invest in improving their own agriculture, and so that it's not so the land can just be better used. Okay, we can improve the performance of the smaller farmers by investing in better quality agriculture outcomes for them, as well as helping to protect and grow the carbon capture of the forest. And I think that's a huge opportunity. And we discussed this with the President last night, and I do hope that Tanzania would take its world leadership in that area.
Okay, so Minister Ford, that's it. Thank you. We look forward to all these enhancing partnership between Tanzania and the UK. Have a lovely stay in Tanzania.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.